Hello, back with another review, another mic animation review. Let's jump straight into it, shall we? So we've got a Trident character animation body mechanics test here. And let's have a look. Nice. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there. I think overall for me, I'm not feeling a huge amount of weight in that Trident, and for something that big, it would be cool to really feel that that is heavy, even if this guy is super capable of wielding this Trident. Would still be nice to just feel that weight in there. And I'll point out a few times when, or a few notes, I guess, that could help with that. So turn my notes on. What have we got? So I felt like here he's sort of like squatting into an up, and it just felt like it's not the worst choice. Just feels like maybe we could be in a bit more, a bit closer, maybe starting from here, frame 44, and then easing into that end pose, just because we're kind of like drawing our attention to that, and it's like an establishing shot. So any movement you do at the start is just going to take away from that. So our eye is instantly going to be drawn to that. We might as well keep him in that pose, keep him in this cool pose for a bit longer rather than doing that rise up, I think. I've written motivate camera move here. It just felt a little bit unmotivated. It just kind of zooms in and then he starts all the action. I feel like if he was in that pose and then sort of did one of like started the move, it would then give us a reason to then punch in with the camera. So he could probably just start that motion a bit earlier. So when we cut, he's already kind of in motion and getting into a cool pose. And then when we talk about weight for this part, feels like there's no countering in the body or in the trident at all. So if you want to get that trident off of his shoulder, it feels like you'd want to move this way while dragging the trident that way. At the moment, everything kind of goes over this way, including the trident. So I'm not feeling that big transfer of weight to get that trident off of his body. And then another note with in regards of weight is I guess just countering stuff. I would try and keep this headspace a little bit more in the same area of screen space as he goes over. So you can counter with the hips. I mean, you can move the hips over a lot, like similar amount to what you have. But I would just counter that with this chest rotation back over so that we're not getting a huge change in the head. So we're able to like lock onto him, which works for animation purposes, works for, reading him as a character, but it also works for maintaining like a bit more balance and a bit more weight. And then, as I said, I'd probably think about starting to get the trident off over to this screen, this side of the screen, rather than going back with it, just to help sell the weight of it. And then I guess there's a little note there on the leg pose as well. It feels like we go a little bit broken with this foot, and again, just in terms of balance and countering stuff, if we're moving this way with the hips and the general mass, it'd be nice to maybe get some counterbalance starting to happen in that leg. So just putting it a bit more in this screen space. I personally would make these spins a little bit slower. So maybe it doesn't do so many. Maybe it's just like one spin. Just to, again, sell that weight. It feels a little bit weightless right now. It feels kind of magical. It feels kind of cool. And maybe you could get away with it. I just feel like it might be a little bit more believable if they're a little bit slower. But I don't think the lack of weight comes from those. I mean, it does a little bit come from those big spins, but it more so comes from what the body is doing around that trident. But it couldn't help to slow down the trident's move as well to help the weight. I think here when he does this big move, it'd be cool to get this trident into a silhouette so we don't kind of contact the floor and then come up. If we're just kind of in that end pose and there's maybe a bit of a settle there, I think that would sell the same idea without having that contact or like crashing through the floor. Could be cool. And then throughout the whole bit, I would just really, make this trident an extension of his body. So whatever you can do to get like more of a flow line through that arm there. And it feels like you want to go for some elegance in this piece, like he's almost dancing with this trident based on some of the poses. So, we can potentially, if he's done like a big kind of build up anticipation to this, then fling over, you maybe want to get that head back and neck up a little. And I can't draw a head. Great head. That's a neck. Sorry, that's not a neck. That's a chin. That's a neck. Potentially. I mean, you might just want to ease in, like, not ease in. Oh my god. You might just want to have the character be a different way, in which case I think what you have is pretty good. I'm reacting to the kind of in betweenness of his head right now. It's not one of these super intense. It's a like really intense big move. So you'd probably expect the head to be down and maybe in his own silhouette, and maybe this chest is a bit further forward. Or you would expect the chest to go, if the chest is back, following through with the neck. Just pushing whatever idea it is that you want to get across in that moment, really. It does feel just maybe a touch broken here. It feels like the chest is at this angle, whereas you're quite straight across there. So I would probably include the chest in that, and I'd probably make the chest a bit more this angle, and then have the arms going through. It's a nice flowing line. It just feels like the chest is kind of doing that, and then you're using too much shoulder here, and then this one is like too far. It just feels like a little more awkward than it needs to be. It could just be simpler. The chest is there, and both of the shoulders are maybe up, and you still get that nice flow through the whole body. Because if we kind of look at this, the flow is, it's nice. It's nice through these arms, but we sort of have this, and then we have this angle. So whatever we can do to get more flow, always. I guess since we're picking apart this pose, might be nice to maybe have this knee a bit more down, and maybe this knee a bit more out. Just again to have some flow, more flow through that. And kind of see if I just put the head in a different position and at a different angle, that just kind of gives a different feel to the intensity of that pose. There's a little move screen left there. Maybe it's a camera thing. I'm not sure. But feels like the whole thing moves. Again, if we're moving one part of the body, something needs to counter the other way to stop it from feeling like everything just moves together. So always think to yourself, if the hips are going this way, the chest needs to counter that way. It's much like the entire body, really. The chest starts to go that way, maybe you want to counter with the head a bit. I mean, you don't want things to feel super, overlappy all the time, but there's always got to be an element of that connection, that countering, to help your mechanics feel more believable. Here, I felt like you're going up too high. That I feel like there's not really a need to lose his head, lose connection with the character here. If you were going to go this high, I'd make it a jump. I'd make him disconnect from the ground, which would make sense because then he's like, getting into another pose. It's like you're doing a jump to then anticipate the later jump, which is quite nice. And then in that case as well as doing the jump, I would do a camera move. But I'm not sure you need such a big move anyway. I think you can probably just keep his head in before coming down into this pose. That's a drawing I drew on my phone before I thought I can't give notes on my phone. I'm going to go ahead and, the other drawing I did is gone. I promise I did a better drawing than that. Okay, I'll do it again. So, those are his hands up like, how was that? I guess like that, yeah. It's basically giving you like an elbow break there. You get that. So, this pose. I like what you got going on with the head in the silhouette. I would probably try and push the direction one way or the other with the torso. It just feels like it's flat onto camera and forward right now. I'd probably favor it to one way or the other. If we're going up this way, it feels like it wants to come over here a little. Just a slight subtle thing, just making it feel a bit more three-quarter, a bit more three-dimensional, this pose. I'd get these feet closer to the middle. And in doing that, also turn the knees out and just kind of really sell the squash in these legs, essentially. Because this is what's selling us, that big pop-off. The contrast between this and the next pose. You could think of it like a triangle squashing out before then pinging off, So while he's not doing the splits to be like maximum contrast. Did I just delete that? Okay. While he's not doing the splits, he is kind of creating that outward contrast where these knees go out. So we have this slightly more kind of triangular pose. And then these arms, always just a good trick before a jump to, raise these arms up as much as possible. So you can essentially do this when you power yourself up into the jump. And see there, that kind of creates a nice breaking of the joints when you come down with those arms. Just lead down with those elbows. And then here, I'm just thinking about how just shape language, essentially. We're going again from that kind of triangular shape to as thin as possible. I'd get these feet right in, whatever we can do to, basically make him, you essentially want, just this. That's what felt like we just have a smear, basically. So whatever we can do to make this character into a triangle shape like that, it's just going to really help that compression. So it does this big contrasty out into just gets really thin and shoots up. That's going to feel nice. And then here it felt like you could probably keep him going up and actually leading this camera move. So if we lose anything, we lose him up. So I don't think the camera would ever overtake him. So by the time we get up here, he's already there. He's already in his pose. And the camera has a reason to go up there because we're catching up to him. I think there's potential here with this pose to have him just a bit higher. Potentially you want to come out a little because I know you want to leave some space for the big helicopter trident move. It just feels like he's super close to the bottom of screen, so maybe it's just coming out just a little bit. But just make sure he's centered, I guess. And I had some pose suggestions. Again, it's mostly just flow stuff. You know, flow through the chest, flow through. I mean, we could even push this further, couldn't we? We could, you know, get this leg right up here and really have that flow all the way through there. Yeah, just thinking about flow lines. So we got a nice line of action here, and then we've got a flow line, we've got a flow line, and things are just kind of working together a bit nicer. And it tells the same story of that pose, right? So in this pose, we kind of have, you know, we have a bit of a line of action there, but then the head is doing something different, and then the arms are not necessarily flowing together too well. It feels like this one is starting to go off, I think because of the break in the shoulder. It's making it feel like it's doing that. And then there's a bit of a flow through the legs, but they don't really feel super connected to the rest of the body. So you'd want to get some kind of flow through the body through one of the legs. And then if we can have a bonus of getting those legs linked up as well, I think that would be cool. Camera arc, I'll come back to that in a sec. Or actually, I'll just address it right now, I guess. If we turn this off, kind of feels like the camera gets up there and then sticks and then just shoots back. It would kind of be nice if we imagine the camera as a character and we kind of come up and then have this hold up there before then dropping down. At the moment, it kind of comes up, sticks, and then just drops back. It'd kind of be nice to, yeah, include that motion. And almost it gives it a motivation to go back down, you know, which is, I feel like it's losing right now. It's missing right now, not losing. Just feels like some of the camera moves are a bit unmotivated right now, you know? So whatever we can do to add some kind of motivation, add a reason for their goings on, that's ideal. It felt like here you can push the anticipation. Maybe after that spin, he can grab them both before anticipating down and then doing this big slam into the ground. And here I'm just thinking about how we can have the camera motion overlap him and him overlap the camera motion. So at the moment, you've got the camera coming all the way down and he just stays in space. And then he comes down after a pause. Kind of see that he's just up there. It would be nice if, as we sort of pull away, he then starts to launch into this motion forward, and maybe you'd want to do it a bit sooner. He starts to, you know, get closer. And then we can kind of, as the camera's about to hit the bottom, he catches up with the camera, and, you know, we can really have this, you know, dynamic moment. That, for example, is his face, his shoulder, through the camera, just like overtakes the camera, and then we just have this settle out where he hits the ground, the camera kind of settles, and we have this big camera shake because of this big movement. It's complex stuff, honestly, but I'm just trying to give things to think about, I guess. With these dynamic camera moves, it's always nice to just have things not go camera, character, camera, character, or character, camera. If they can kind of happen overlapping each other and give each other motivation as the scene is unfolding, it's a delicate balance, but it can be really nice. Then here, I was thinking about this pose, drew a couple of things. See what you think of this, but the staging is a little bit difficult, but I was just kind of trying to draw his pose. Maybe if it was this, but he was a bit more, centered. Say that's his head. Maybe, that arm was a bit more like that. Who knows? But I was essentially thinking that it would be really nice to get that trident really close, as close as you can, that impact point, somewhere maybe in this lower third. That would be cool. Just to really sell the dynamism and get the camera more involved. So he's like planting this trident just in front of the camera, and we can really feel like the energy on the camera from that massive hit that he's just done. So yeah, just play with the dynamism. Kind of got him in a super, pushed pose where his arm is way back here and the trident is right up to camera. Have a play with it, see what you think. I think we can definitely land a lot more dynamically, and because it's nice that you have the Dutch of the camera right now. Just feels like you could push him towards the camera and really, push it way more than I've drawn there even. And I guess on that, again, sorry for that. Started making my notes on my phone, switched over to my PC. It's not a super clear drawing, but again, it's that same sort of thing where trident in the foreground, him, little head maybe. I'm not going to try and draw a character in perspective, essentially, but big foot, whatever. I don't know how to draw. Some kind of epic pose. He's looking into the distance, maybe. And, he's got this arm grabbing this trident. Just, as if the camera's looking up at him and we're on like a 20mm lens or something, 18mm lens. Just again, thinking about this final pose and how we can make things a bit more dynamic. It would probably be better if I just posted up some reference here, but I think you get what I mean. We've got the trident in the foreground, we've got him in the kind of mid-ground, and we're really playing with that perspective and, making him feel super epic and super massive and just cool. So, one more note. I redrew these. I don't know why this. It's a sync sketch. Come on. I'm blaming sync sketch, but that's just purely me. So a big thing here for me, one of the first notes that I felt to myself when I watched it was to add to the weight and add to the, he's stabbed this in the ground. I would, if I'm picking up something heavy out of the ground, I'm using my whole body first and then kind of grabbing it out afterwards. So getting up there and then essentially having like a straight arm to then like yank it out of the ground. At the moment, he sort of picks it up as he's getting up and we lose any sense of weight from that. So if you get that kind of like big lead with the body is what I'm saying. Feels like we kind of lead with the arm and then he's magically getting up there. But just, again, adding some weight. All that good stuff. It does seem a shame not to stab with the trident at the end. But then it's kind of nice that you do this end pose as well. Just wondering if there's a way you can incorporate both. Stabs down. I mean, I think it would still look cool if the trident was... No, this is cooler for sure. But, he could maybe grab it up and then just flick it down rather than going behind his head to then transition into the trident. If he just pulled the trident out and then kept it in that down pose. Anyway, I hope those ideas help. It's coming along great. Thanks a lot for sending in that work for review. Keyframe Keyframe closed. Keyframe coach is currently closed. I'm just super busy, but hoping to be open again at some point in the future. So for now, I won't say go and buy a Keyframe coach review, but thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.